The silence inside the command center was heavy, but not because of fear. It was heavy because of boredom. For 3,000 years, nothing interesting had happened. The massive screens on the wall of the station usually showed the same thing: the dark, empty void of space and the occasional passing cargo ship from a friendly alien species. The station was named the Aegis, a name that sounded strong and important. But in reality, it was just a floating checkpoint in the middle of nowhere. Commander Alex sat in the main chair in the center of the room. He was a tall man with short hair that was starting to turn gray at the sides. He was spinning a pen around his fingers, staring at the clock on the wall. The seconds ticked by slowly. He let out a long, loud sigh that echoed in the quiet room. "Is it lunchtime yet?" Alex asked the room. His voice was deep but sounded very tired. Lieutenant Tom, who was sitting at the desk nearest to the big window, turned around. Tom was younger, with bright eyes and a notebook full of drawings he had made during his shift. He looked at his own watch and shook his head. "No, sir," Tom said. "It is only 10 in the morning. We have 4 more hours until lunch." Alex groaned and put his feet up on the control panel. "This job is going to kill me, Tom. Not because of war, but because of boredom. I think I would rather fight a space monster than stare at that black screen for 1 more minute." Tom laughed softly. "Careful what you wish for, sir. The galaxy is at peace. Remember the great truce. No fighting, no wars, just trade and polite conversation. It has been 3,000 years. My grandfather was a soldier, but I am just a babysitter for a metal box in space." The rest of the crew on the bridge smiled. There were 5 other people working at various computer stations. They were checking systems, adjusting the temperature, and drinking coffee. They were all wearing simple blue uniforms. They were not wearing helmets or holding weapons. There was no need for weapons anymore. Suddenly, the silence broke. A loud, screeching sound came from the main speakers. It was not a polite trade signal. It was a harsh, jagged noise that hurt the ears. Everyone on the bridge sat up straight. Alex dropped his pen. He pulled his feet off the control panel and leaned forward. The boring morning was over. The big screen in the front of the room flickered and changed color. It turned from a view of the stars to a bright orange warning screen. Then, a picture appeared. It was a picture of an alien. It was a Xylothyan. They were tall, thin creatures with gray skin and large, black eyes. They looked like the insects Alex had seen in books about Earth's ancient history. But this creature was wearing fancy gold armor and standing on a bridge of a large ship. "Attention, primitive Earthlings," the alien voice hissed. The computer translated the language instantly, but the tone of the voice was clear even without translation. It was full of hate and arrogance. "I am High Admiral Vex of the Xylothyan Empire." Alex looked at Tom. Tom looked back with wide eyes. He mouthed the word, "Wow." The alien continued speaking. "For 3,000 years, we have watched you. We have allowed you to exist in this galaxy out of pity. We signed the Great Truce because we thought you might evolve. We thought you might become civilized. But we were wrong. You are still weak. You are still violent. And you are taking up space that belongs to superior races." On the bridge of the Aegis, the atmosphere changed instantly. The crew members stopped smiling. They looked at the screen, but they did not look afraid. They looked annoyed. It was the look you give someone when they cut in line at the grocery store. The Admiral raised a thin, stick-like arm and pointed a finger at the camera. "The truce is over. We are tired of your presence. Today, the Xylothyan fleet will cleanse the sector. We will destroy your planet, and we will erase the name humanity from history. Prepare to die. The screen went black for a moment, and then it showed a view of deep space. Hundreds of silver ships were appearing out of nowhere. They were uncloaking. They were huge, sharp, and dangerous. Their weapons were glowing with bright green energy. They were aimed directly at Earth. Commander Alex stood up slowly. He smoothed down his uniform shirt. He did not run to the red alert button. He did not shout orders. He just stood there and stared at the fleet on the screen. "Well," Alex said, his voice calm. "I guess we don't have to worry about lunch anymore." Lieutenant Tom typed quickly on his keyboard. "Sir, sensors confirm 400 enemy ships. Heavy cruisers, dreadnoughts, and fighters. They are locking weapons on our position. Their shields are up." Alex walked over to the main console. "Tom, are they serious? Is this a prank? Did the Martian colonies hire a hologram company to play a joke on us for the anniversary of the truce?" "I am reading high-energy signatures, sir," a female officer named Sarah said from the back of the room. "Those plasma torpedoes are real. They are fully charged. They are not joking." Alex shook his head. "Unbelievable. They actually want to fight. After 3,000 years of peace, they decide to wake the sleeping giant." He looked around the room at his crew. "Does anyone here remember the activation codes for the main defense grid? I think we deleted them to make space for the music library." "I have them on a floppy disk in my drawer, sir," Tom said, smiling. "I kept it just in case." "Good man, Tom," Alex said. He pressed a button on the chair console to open a ship-wide communication channel. His voice boomed through every room on the station. "Attention all hands," Alex said. He sounded like he was announcing a change in the cafeteria menu, not a war. "We have guests. The Xylothyan Empire has decided to break the truce. They claim they are here to conquer us. It seems they think we have forgotten how to fight." Alex paused, looking at the terrifying alien fleet on the screen. The green lights of their weapons were getting brighter. "Sergeant Major, please wake up the Historical Archives Division," Alex continued. "Tell them to stop dusting the old books and get to work. We need to find the old war manuals. Tell the engineering crew to stop working on the coffee machine and turn the power reactors back up to wartime levels." He looked at the crew on the bridge. They were all smiling now. It was a strange sight. The largest alien fleet seen in millennia was pointing guns at them, and the humans were smiling. "It looks like recess is over, people," Alex said into the microphone. "Let's go outside and show the new kids how we play." Alex cut the connection and sat back down in his chair. He swiveled it around to face Lieutenant Tom. "Tom, open a channel to the lead ship," Alex ordered. "Channel open, sir," Tom said. Alex leaned toward the microphone. "This is Commander Alex of Earth Station Aegis. You are violating Galactic Treaty Number 1. You are flying in a no-shooting zone. Also, you are being very rude. We were having a very boring morning, and you are disturbing our peace. You have exactly 10 seconds to turn those little pea shooters around and go home before we get angry." On the view screen, the Xylothyan ships did not move. Instead, they fired. A wave of green plasma energy shot across the darkness of space, heading straight for the station. It moved fast, leaving a trail of light behind it. "Sir, impact in 5 seconds. Tom shouted. He didn't sound scared. He sounded excited. Shields are at 1%. We forgot to charge them. Alex laughed. It was a loud, hearty laugh that filled the bridge. Hold on to your hats, everyone. The plasma blast hit the station. But it did not explode. The station had emergency automated defense protocols that were older than the truce itself. Just before the blast hit, a glowing blue energy field flickered into existence around the Aegis. The green plasma washed over the blue shield like water over a rock, sizzling and sparking, but doing no damage. The bridge lights dimmed for a second as the shields absorbed the energy, then came back on. Power surge absorbed, Sarah said from the back. The batteries are now fully charged. Sir, we have more energy now than we did 5 minutes ago. They just refueled us. Alex smiled coldly at the screen. Well, that was rude of them. Tom, are the targeting systems online? I want to see if we can still shoot straight. Tom flipped a dusty plastic cover off a red switch. Targeting systems are online, sir. I have a lock on their flagship's main engine. Don't destroy them yet, Alex said, rubbing his chin. Let's just scare them a little. Fire a warning shot. One of the old kinetic rods. The really big ones. Tom pressed the button. Deep inside the station, a massive electromagnetic railgun silent for 3 millennia spun to life. It hummed with power, accelerating a solid metal rod the size of a telephone pole to incredible speeds. The rod shot out from the side of the station, invisible to the naked eye, but moving faster than sound. It streaked past the Xylothyan flagship, missing it by only a few feet. The pressure from the rod flying past was so strong that it rocked the massive alien ship, pushing it sideways and spinning it around. The alien ship's shields flickered and died from the shock wave. Message sent, sir, Tom said, grinning. On the screen, the alien fleet stopped. They had expected Earth to be an easy target. They expected the humans to cry and beg for mercy. They did not expect the humans to be able to shoot back, and they certainly did not expect the humans to be laughing. Commander Alex looked at the confused aliens on the screen. Okay, he said to his crew. Now the fun begins. The green plasma fire from the Xylothyan fleet faded into the darkness of space, leaving nothing but small sparks of dying energy. The shields of the Aegis station hummed softly, a sound that hadn't been heard on the bridge for centuries. The crew sat in their chairs, calm and collected. Commander Alex didn't even stand up. He just took a sip of his cold coffee and looked at the main screen. Report, Alex said simply. Lieutenant Tom was typing rapidly on his keyboard, his eyes moving across the streams of data. Sir, the enemy fleet has stopped firing. They are holding position just past the moon. Sensors show their ships are, well, sir, they are confused. Their energy readings are fluctuating. It looks like they don't know what to do. Alex nodded slowly. They expected us to crumble. They fired their biggest guns, and we just sat here. That must be very scary for them. Suddenly, a light flashed on Tom's console. It was a yellow light, meaning an incoming message on a civilian channel. Sir, I am receiving a text message from the Xylothyan flagship. It is on an open frequency. Read it, Alex ordered. Tom cleared his throat and read the words aloud. It says, Earth vessels, explain your defensive capabilities. That was not standard treaty technology. Why did our plasma not breach your hull? Alex chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. Open a channel, Tom. Let's talk to them. The screen flickered again, showing the bridge of the alien ship. The High Admiral was standing there, surrounded by his officers. They looked tense. The admiral's gray skin was pale, and his large black eyes were darting around his own bridge in panic. "Earth Commander," the admiral hissed. "What was that barrier? Our intelligence says you are a peaceful race. You have no military. We have watched you for 3,000 years. You build gardens and museums. You do not build shields." Alex leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "Admiral, did you really think we spent the last 3,000 years just planting flowers? We got bored. We turned off the big guns because we didn't want to scare the neighbors. But we didn't throw them away. We just put them in the attic." "Lies!" the admiral shouted. "You are primitives. We will destroy you." "Go ahead and try," Alex said. "But before you do, I have a question for you. Do you know why the lights on your flagship are flickering?" The admiral froze. He looked up at the ceiling of his bridge, where the lights were indeed dimming and brightening erratically. I do not know. That would be our hacking team," Alex said casually. "While you were shooting at us, a 16-year-old girl named Lisa in the IT department decided to see how fast she could get into your computer system. It took her about 4 seconds. She's currently downloading your music library." The admiral looked horrified. He spun around to his own communications officer. "Cut the connection. Cut it now." The screen went black. On the bridge of the Aegis, the crew started to laugh. It wasn't a nervous laugh, it was the laugh of people who realized they were holding all the cards. "Sir," a woman named Jenny from the navigation station spoke up. "They are charging their weapons again. All 400 ships are targeting Earth directly. They aren't aiming for the station this time. They are going for the planet." Alex sighed and stood up. "All right, no more playing nice. If they want to shoot at our home, we have to swat them." He walked to the center of the room and stood on a raised metal platform. "Tom, activate the swarm protocol. Authorization code Alpha 09. Tom's fingers flew across the keys. "Swarm protocol activated, sir." Releasing drones. Deep within the cargo holds of the Aegis, and hidden in bunkers on the dark side of the moon, thousands of small doors slid open. They hadn't been touched in ages, but the machinery inside was oiled and ready. From these dark launch bays, millions of small, silver spheres floated out into space. They were not large ships. They were only the size of a basketball. They were automated defense drones, left over from the old wars. To the Xylothyan fleet, it looked like the stars themselves were coming alive. The silver spheres moved together in a massive cloud, swirling between the Earth and the alien ships. "Incoming fire detected," Jenny shouted. "They've launched a full barrage. Thousands of missiles and plasma torpedoes." On the screen, the sky between the moon and Earth turned bright green with the energy of the alien attack. It was a wall of death moving toward the blue planet. The Xylothyan admiral watched with glee, certain that nothing could survive such an assault. But Alex just watched the clock. Wait for it, wait for it. The drones moved. They didn't fire lasers. They didn't shoot missiles. Instead, they accelerated to incredible speeds and slammed directly into the incoming alien fire. The silver spheres acted like a shield of pure metal. When a drone hit a plasma torpedo, the explosion destroyed the drone, but it also neutralized the torpedo. The space between Earth and the moon lit up with millions of tiny, silent explosions. It looked like a beautiful fireworks show. It was a slaughter, but it was the ammunition that was dying, not the people. "Report," Alex said, lighting a small cigar he had found in his pocket. "Enemy barrage neutralized, sir," Tom said, grinning. "We lost about 10,000 drones. We have 10 million more." Alex blew a puff of smoke into the air. "Admiral Vex must be very angry by now. Let's see if he wants to talk again." "Sir, they are launching dropships," Jenny said, her voice serious now. "They aren't shooting at the station anymore. They are sending ground troops. They want to invade the surface." Alex walked to the window and looked down at the blue marble of Earth. "So, they want to come down here. To our house." He turned back to the crew. "This changes things. We can't shoot them all in space. Some will make it through. Send a message to the planetary surface. Tell the global governors to wake up the hunters. Tell them the guests have arrived." Tom typed the message. "Sir, shouldn't we tell the ground forces to be careful? The aliens have superior technology." Alex laughed out loud. "Tom, look at the history books. When was the last time we lost a ground war?" Tom looked confused. We never lost, sir. But that was 3,000 years ago." "Exactly," Alex said. "We haven't fought in 3,000 years, but we haven't been sleeping. We have been training. We have been building weapons that make those plasma toys look like sparklers. The ground troops are going to have a field day." Down on Earth, in the vast plains of the American Midwest, the sky was beginning to fill with the shapes of Xylothyan dropships. They were dark, menacing shadows falling through the clouds. The aliens inside were elite warriors, genetically engineered for combat. They checked their rifles and snarled at each other, ready to slaughter the weak humans they had been told about. They expected to see cities burning. They expected to see humans running in fear. But as the first dropships touched down in the tall grass of the fields, they saw no one. It was quiet. The wind blew through the wheat, and a few birds flew away. The massive metal doors of the alien ships hissed open, and ramps slammed down against the dirt. Hundreds of Xylothyan soldiers rushed out, their weapons raised. They formed a perimeter, their black eyes scanning for threats. "Where are the defenders?" one alien soldier clicked into his comms unit. "There is no resistance." A tall Xylothyan commander stepped out of the lead ship. He looked at the horizon. "Humans are cowards. They are hiding in their holes. Find them. Kill them all." The soldiers began to move across the field. They were fast and deadly, but then, the ground started to shake. It was a low rumble, like thunder, but there were no clouds in the sky. The aliens stopped. They looked around, confused. Back on the Aegis station, Alex was watching a live video feed from the ground. He sat back in his chair, putting his feet up again. "Here comes the welcoming committee," Alex said to Tom. On the screen, the flat ground in front of the alien troops suddenly split open. A massive piece of metal, large enough to cover a football field, slid away to reveal a dark pit. From the darkness, a pair of giant, glowing red lights turned on. Then, a machine rose up. It was a walker, a towering robot that stood over 100 feet tall. It was painted in bright orange and yellow stripes, looking like a piece of construction equipment rather than a weapon of war. But in its massive metal hands, it held a rotary cannon that was the size of a bus. The Xylothyan soldiers looked up, their mouths open in shock. They had never seen technology like this. It was crude, bulky, and terrifying. A loudspeaker on the robot clicked on, and a human voice boomed across the field, loud enough to shatter glass. It was a cheerful voice, sounding like a man named Steve who was about to start a barbecue. "Howdy, neighbors," the voice said. "Welcome to Earth. Please step away from the ship, you're parked in a no-stopping zone." The robot's cannon spun up. It made a high-pitched whining noise that grew louder and louder. The aliens turned to run, but it was too late. The sound of the cannon firing was like the world tearing apart. On the bridge of the space station, Alex took another sip of coffee. "Okay," he said. "Now they're really going to be mad." The sound of the rotary cannon echoed across the plains like a continuous roll of thunder. The massive orange robot stood amidst the smoke, its barrels still spinning and glowing red from the heat. Where the Xylothyan front line had been, there was now nothing but scorched earth and scraps of twisted metal. The elite alien soldiers, who had considered themselves the masters of the galaxy, had been erased in seconds. In the command center on Earth, far below the surface, Controller David sat in front of a wall of monitors. He was eating a bag of chips, watching the destruction with mild interest. Beside him, Specialist Mike was typing on a keyboard, coordinating the automated defenses. "Did you see that?" Mike David asked, pointing a chip at the screen. "Steve hit them with the party mixer setting. I told him it would work better on infantry." Mike nodded without looking up. "Target eliminated, sir. But we are picking up more signals. The alien fleet in orbit is realizing their ground troops are in trouble. They are launching a second wave. They are trying to drop reinforcements in the desert sectors." David wiped the salt off his fingers. "The desert good. That's where the sandworms are parked. Tell the automated silos to stand by, let the ships land, then bury them." The war on the ground was not a war. It was a pest control operation. The Xylothians had prepared for battles of strategy, for honor duels, and for siege warfare. They had not prepared for an enemy that treated their invasion as a testing ground for obsolete technology. Meanwhile, in the high orbit above Earth, the Xylothian flagship was in chaos. The bridge crew was shouting, running from console to console. The calm arrogance from the beginning of the day was completely gone. High Admiral Vex gripped the armrests of his chair until his knuckles turned white. "Report." Vex screamed at his tactical officer. "Why have we lost contact with the first wave?" The tactical officer, a small gray alien shaking with fear, stammered, "Admiral, we are reading, total destruction. All life signs from the landing party are gone. It happened instantly." "What weapon did they use?" Vex demanded. "Did they use a nuclear device? Did they use a plasma beam?" "No, sir," the officer said. "Sensors detect a large amount of kinetic impact. It looks like lead bullets. Moving at very high speeds." Vex stared at the officer. "Bullets? We have shields that deflect lasers. Bullets should bounce off our energy fields. The humans are using kinetic penetrators, sir," the officer explained. "Our energy shields stop heat and light, but heavy physical objects go right through. They are shooting metal rods at us faster than the speed of sound. It is primitive, but it is effective." Vex stood up and paced the bridge. "These primitives. They tricked us. They hid their true strength." He slammed his fist onto a metal table. "I will not be defeated by a race of farmers. Send in the interceptors. Send the entire fleet into the atmosphere. I want this planet bombed into glass." Back on the station Aegis, Commander Alex watched the Xylothian fleet move. The ships were breaking formation, descending toward Earth in a giant cloud. They were angry now. They were stop playing games. "Tom, Alex said quietly. It looks they want to get close and personal. Lieutenant Tom was watching the radar screen. Sir, there are too many of them for the railguns to handle individually. And if we use nukes, we might damage the atmosphere. I know, Alex said. We need to clear the skies. It is time to wake up the grid. Alex walked to the back of the bridge, where a heavy steel door was built into the wall. It had a large wheel handle, like the door of a submarine vault. There was a sign above the door that said Atmospheric Control, Authorized Personnel Only. Tom, Jenny, Sarah, Alex called out. Come back here. You need to turn the wheel. The three officers walked over to the door. It was old technology, manual, and heavy. The three of them grabbed the wheel together. 1, 2, 3, push. Tom said. They grunted and pushed the wheel. It turned slowly with a loud clanking sound. Click, click, click. The door swung open, revealing a dark tunnel filled with cables and pipes. At the end of the tunnel was a large, red button. Sir, Jenny asked, looking at the button. Are you sure the atmospheric grid hasn't been used since the tech wars of the 25th century? It drains a lot of power. I'm sure, Alex said. The Xylithians rely on their engines and their aerodynamics. Let's make flying very difficult for them. Jenny walked into the tunnel and pressed the button. Nothing happened immediately. But on Earth, things began to change. In the sky, invisible waves of energy began to pulse. The ionosphere, the layer of the atmosphere that protects the planet, was being activated. It wasn't just a shield anymore, it was a weapon. High above the planet, the Xylithian fleet screamed downward. They were ready to unleash fire upon the cities. But as they entered the upper atmosphere, their ships began to shudder. What is happening? A Xylithian pilot yelled over the comms. My controls are sluggish. My engines are stalling. Another pilot shouted. The air is too thick. It's like flying through water. The humans had activated the gravity well generators. These were ancient machines buried deep within the continents of Earth. They projected a gravity field that made the atmosphere around the planet much denser and heavier. For a human on the ground, it felt perfectly normal. But for a spaceship moving at high speeds, it was like hitting a wall of concrete. Hundreds of alien ships, moving too fast to stop, smashed into the invisible heavy atmosphere. Their wings snapped off. Their engines exploded from the stress. They didn't even need to be shot down. The sky itself rejected them. On the screen at the Aegis station, it looked like a meteor shower. Hundreds of fireballs streaked across the sky as Xylithian fighters burned up in the atmosphere. Wow, Sarah said, watching the light show. That is actually kind of beautiful, in a terrifying way. Effective, too, Alex said. But the big ships will survive. They have strong hulls. They will make it to the ground. He was right. The massive Xylithian cruisers were heavy enough to push through the heavy gravity. They broke through the clouds, their engines smoking, descending toward the major cities of Earth. They are targeting New York, Tokyo, and London, Tom reported. They are going to try to level the population centers. Alex frowned. He walked back to his chair and sat down. This was the part he hated. The loss of life. Even though the humans had the technology advantage, the aliens were desperate. They would start shooting civilians. Open a channel to the Xylithian admiral, Alex said. Channel open, sir. The face of High Admiral Vex appeared on the screen. He looked wild. His uniform was torn, and he had a cut on his forehead. "You monsters!" Vex spat. "What have you done to the sky? You fight like cowards." "Cowards?" Alex asked, raising an eyebrow. "Admiral, you attacked a planet that hasn't had a war in 3,000 years. You brought 400 ships to a gunfight. And now you are losing, so you call us names. We will still win." Vex yelled. "We are landing in your cities. We will kill your civilians until you surrender. You may have tricks, but you cannot stop us from slaughtering the weak." Alex leaned close to the camera. His eyes went cold. The friendly, bored look was gone. "Admiral, you made a very big mistake. You think the civilians are weak. You think that because we haven't fought in 3,000 years, we are soft. But humans, we are always ready to fight. We just don't show it until you knock on the door." Alex paused for effect. "You just landed in New York. Do you know what the people there are like?" "I do not care," Vex shouted. Alex smiled a thin, scary smile. "No, you don't. But you're about to find out." "Tom, cut the feed." The screen went black. Alex looked at his crew. "Okay, people. The party is downstairs now. We've done our part in space. The ground defenses are online. The militias are mobilizing. We just have to wait." "Wait for what?" Sir Jenny asked. Alex looked at the map of the world, where red dots were appearing over every major city. "Wait for the aliens to realize that they didn't invade a planet of soldiers," Alex said. "They invaded a planet of monsters who pretend to be nice people." Down in the streets of New York, the massive Xylothyan landing cruisers smashed into the middle of Times Square. The ground shook, and car alarms went off. Dust clouds covered the skyscrapers. The ramps lowered, and thousands of heavily armored aliens marched out, roaring their war cries. They expected to see people crying in the streets. They expected to see the police running away. But the streets were empty. The traffic lights were still working, changing from green to red. The giant advertising screens were still playing commercials for soda and phones. The Xylothyan commander frowned. He stepped off the ramp, his weapon ready. "Come out and die!" he screamed. Then, he heard a sound. It was a click. Like the sound of a lock being opened. On every street corner, from the sewers, from the rooftops, and from inside the buildings, doors opened. But they weren't normal doors. They were hidden weapon turrets popping out of mailboxes, out of manholes, and out of newspaper stands. And from the alleyways, people walked out. They weren't soldiers. They were construction workers, taxi drivers, and shopkeepers. But they were all carrying very large guns. And they were all smiling. It was the smile of someone who has been waiting a very long time to let loose. The Xylothyan commander looked around. There were thousands of guns pointed at him. "Oh," the alien said. The ground war for Earth had truly begun, and the humans were just getting warmed up. The smoke from the landed Xylothyan cruisers filled the streets of New York City. The air smelled like burnt metal and ozone. The massive ships sat in the middle of the avenues like ugly, gray mountains. The aliens had secured Times Square, or so they thought. They had set up purple energy barriers and were marching their troops outward, expecting an easy sweep through the city. Commander Kale led a squad of elite warriors down 7th Avenue. He wore the silver armor of the Xylothyan Special Forces. He felt confident. His sensors showed no heavy weapons nearby, only the weak biosignatures of humans hiding in the buildings. "Move forward," Kale ordered through his helmet comms. Crush the resistance. Bring the leaders to me. His squad kicked down the door of a tall glass building. They rushed inside, their plasma rifles raised. They expected to find a military base or a bunker. Instead, they found a coffee shop. The tables were overturned, and the floor was covered in broken ceramic mugs. But behind the counter, a young man with a beard was standing there. He was wearing a green apron that said City Coffee on it. He wasn't holding a gun. He was holding a metal milk steaming pitcher. He looked at the aliens and shrugged. "We're closed," the man said. Kale aimed his rifle at the man's head. "You are a prisoner of the Xylothyan Empire. Surrender." The coffee shop worker didn't look scared. He looked annoyed. He checked his watch. "Listen, tall and gray. My name is Ben. I was supposed to get off work 10 minutes ago. My shift ended when you guys blew up the traffic lights. Can we hurry this up?" Kale was confused. This was not the behavior of a conquered species. "Where are your soldiers? Where is your army?" "The army?" Ben asked. He laughed. He put down the pitcher and reached under the counter. Kale tightened his finger on the trigger, ready to fire. But Ben didn't pull out a gun. He pulled out a dusty, old-looking metal helmet with a glass visor. He put it on. "The army is at lunch," Ben's voice said, now amplified by a speaker in the helmet. "I'm just the guy who makes the lats. But I also do weekend duty with the Civil Defense Force. Did you know we get a tax break if we keep a railgun under the register?" Before Kale could react, Ben pressed a button on the side of the counter. The floor in front of the alien slid open. A small, automated turret popped up. It spun around and fired a net made of strong steel wires. The net wrapped around Kale and his squad, pinning their arms to their bodies and knocking them to the floor. "Hey!" Kale shouted, struggling. "Get this off." Ben walked out from behind the counter, holding a heavy stun baton. He tapped it against Kale's armor. Sparks flew. "Sorry about the mess. Corporate says I have to clean this up myself." Meanwhile, outside in the street, the situation was getting even stranger for the Xylothians. The main invasion force was trying to move towards Central Park. They had heavy tanks and walkers, but the streets of New York were not built for tanks, and the humans had turned the city into a trap. As a column of alien tanks rolled down Fifth Avenue, the manhole covers in the street suddenly flew into the air. Huge mechanical arms reached up from the sewers and grabbed the bottom of the tanks. With a screech of tearing metal, the tanks were flipped upside down. The aliens scrambled out of the wreckage, shooting wildly. But they couldn't see who was attacking them. The enemy was everywhere and nowhere. From the windows of the skyscrapers, ordinary office workers were leaning out. They weren't throwing rocks. They were holding guided missile launchers that looked like they had been stored in closets for decades. "Fire!" yelled a woman in a business suit from the 30th floor of the Empire State Building. A dozen missiles streaked down from the sky, hitting the alien infantry with precision. The explosions shook the street. On the corner of the street, a hot dog vendor named John was sitting on his stool. He wasn't selling hot dogs anymore. He had flipped his cart over. The side of the cart had opened up to reveal a control panel. John was typing rapidly. "I always hated this traffic," John mumbled to himself. He pressed a big red button marked gridlock. Suddenly, the traffic lights in the entire city turned red. Then, the street plates themselves began to shift. Hidden hydraulic systems under the asphalt raised the concrete blocks like walls. The alien formation was broken apart. Some tanks were lifted high into the air, stuck on concrete pillars. The Xylithians tried to regroup. They called for air support. Command. We need evac. We are pinned down by civilians. But their commander in orbit couldn't help them. The sky was still a no-fly zone thanks to the gravity wells. The strangest battle was happening in Central Park. The Xylithians had decided to land a large force there because it was an open space. They thought it would be a safe landing zone. They were wrong. Deep in the woods of the park, an old man named Steve was sitting on a bench. He was feeding pigeons. He wore a tweed jacket and glasses. He looked like a retired grandfather. In front of him, about 50 Xylithian soldiers were creeping through the trees, searching for human life. They stepped on twigs and crunched fallen leaves. They were whispering to each other in their alien language. Steve looked at a pigeon on his knee. "Looks like the guests are early, little friend," he whispered. The pigeon flew away. Steve reached into his pocket and pulled out a small whistle. He didn't blow it. He just pressed a button on the side. The ground in the park began to tremble. The Xylithian soldiers stopped. They pointed their weapons at the trees. "Earthquake?" one asked. Then, the dirt exploded. Not from a bomb, but from something moving underneath. Giant, segmented metal worms burst from the ground. They were as big around as a subway train. They had drill bits for noses and lights along their sides. They were the subway protectors, ancient machines designed to protect the city's underground infrastructure. The worms roared, a sound like grinding metal. They didn't shoot the aliens. They simply rolled over them. The alien screams were cut short as the massive machines flattened everything in their path. The aliens fired their plasma rifles, but the bolts just bounced off the thick steel hulls of the worms. Steve watched from his bench. He adjusted his glasses. "Maintenance crews are going to have a lot of fixing to do tomorrow," he said, shaking his head. In another part of the city, a group of aliens had taken over a museum. They thought it would be a strong defensive position. They barricaded the doors and set up snipers on the roof. A police officer named Mike was standing outside the museum. He was eating a donut and leaning against his patrol car. He watched the aliens on the roof. "Hey!" Mike shouted up at them. "You can't park up there." An alien sniper shot at him. The plasma bolt hit the patrol car, melting the door. Mike sighed. He hated when people damaged public property. He walked to the back of his car and opened the trunk. He didn't take out a shotgun. He took out a large, futuristic cannon that looked like it belonged on a spaceship, not a police car. It was painted with black and white stripes. "Last warning," Mike yelled. "Come down quietly." The aliens laughed and shot at him again. Mike shook his head. He lifted the heavy cannon with one hand, like it was made of foam. He aimed at the roof of the museum. "Time to bring the house down." He fired a blue energy beam. It wasn't an explosive. It was a molecular destabilizer. The beam hit the roof of the museum, and the stone instantly turned into dust. The roof collapsed inward, burying the alien snipers in a pile of soft sand. The aliens inside the museum ran out coughing, covered in gray powder. Mike put the cannon back in the trunk and took a bite of his donut. Another job well done. All across the city, the story was the same. The Xylithians were fighting a ghost army. Every time they thought they found a target, it turned out to be a trap. Every time they tried to attack a building, they were met with overwhelming firepower. They had expected a military uniform. They had expected tanks with flags. Instead, they were fighting shopkeepers, taxi drivers, and hot dog vendors. And these civilians were fighting with skill and technology that shouldn't exist. In the middle of Times Square, Commander Kale was finally cut loose from the net by one of his soldiers. They were hiding behind a broken bus. They were surrounded. Kale looked at his squad. There were only 10 of them left out of 50. He looked at the city. The lights were still on, the billboards were still flashing, and he could hear sirens in the distance. The city wasn't burning. It was fighting back. "We have to retreat," Kale said. "These humans, they are not primitives. They are hiding something. This whole city is a weapon." "But the Admiral said they were weak," a soldier said. "The Admiral was wrong," Kale said grimly. "We are not fighting an army. We are fighting a population that has been preparing for war for 3,000 years, and they used that time to turn their daily lives into a weapon." Kale looked up at the tall buildings. He felt small. He realized that the humans had been playing with them from the start. The space station, the gravity wells, the drones, it was all just a distraction while the real defense, the people, woke up. "Request extraction," Kale said into his radio. "We need to get off this rock. Now." But the radio only gave static. The humans were jamming the signals. Kale was trapped in a city that wanted to kill him, surrounded by people who were just finishing their coffee break before coming out to hunt him. The Xylothyan fleet was in full retreat. The once proud and terrifying silver ships were now scarred, smoking, and fleeing toward the edge of the solar system. The gravity wells around Earth were slowly powering down, allowing them to escape, but the damage was done. The mighty invasion force had been reduced to debris in just a few hours. On the bridge of the Aegis station, the mood was relaxed. The red alert lights were off, replaced by the soft white glow of the standard lamps. Lieutenant Tom was leaning back in his chair, his feet up on the console, watching the radar screens clear of enemy dots. Jenny and Sarah were cleaning up the empty coffee cups that had accumulated during the battle. Commander Alex stood by the large window, watching the last Xylothyan ship disappear into the dark distance. He took a deep breath and let it out slowly. It was the sigh of a man who had finished a long day of work and was finally ready to go home. "They are moving fast," Tom observed. "I guess they realized they bit off more than they could chew." "They usually do," Alex said, turning away from the window. "The problem with being a bully is that you eventually pick on someone who is secretly a black belt." Suddenly, the main communication console lit up again. It was a direct, secure channel from the Xylothyan flagship. Tom looked at Alex for permission. Alex nodded. Tom pressed the button, and the face of High Admiral Vex appeared on the screen. The Admiral looked terrible. His fancy gold armor was dented, and his skin was pale. Behind him, smoke was rising from his own control panels. He looked defeated, humiliated, and very confused. "Earth Commander," Vex said. His voice was no longer arrogant. It was shaky and quiet. "I request, no, I demand a ceasefire. We are leaving your system. We will not return. Do not fire on us while we retreat." Alex walked slowly toward the screen. He didn't look angry. He didn't look triumphant. He looked like a teacher disappointed in a student who had failed a test. "You came here to destroy us, Vex. You broke a 3,000-year peace treaty. Why should we let you go? We could hunt you down. We have your coordinates. We could destroy every last one of you right now." Vex swallowed hard. "Because, we do not understand. Our intelligence was clear. You were primitive. You were peaceful. You had no military. Yet, in a single day, you destroyed the finest fleet of the Xylothyan Empire with weapons that should not exist. Who are you? What are you hiding? Alex smiled. It was a cold, thin smile. That is the question, isn't it? You thought we were weak because we didn't build massive warships. You thought we were soft because we didn't carry weapons on the streets. But you made a mistake. You confused peace with weakness. Alex leaned closer to the camera, his eyes locking with Vex. 3,000 years ago, we were just like you. We conquered, we fought, and we destroyed. We were very good at it. But then, we looked at the stars and we realized that fighting everyone else was boring. It was too easy. So, we made a deal. We agreed to stop, to see if the rest of the galaxy could catch up. We waited for centuries, Alex continued. We watched you build your empire. We watched you boast and brag. And we just laughed. We used our military budget to build parks and hospitals. We used our scientists to cure diseases instead of designing new guns. But we didn't throw the guns away, Vex. We put them in a box. We buried them under the ground and left them there, waiting for a rainy day. Today was that rainy day, Tom chimed in from the side, grinning. Vex looked horrified. So, this entire time, while we thought we were superior, you were just holding back, you were mocking us. We weren't mocking you, Alex said, shaking his head. We were waiting for a challenge. We wanted to see if you would evolve into something interesting. But you didn't. You are just the same old empire you were 1,000 years ago. You are predictable. And honestly, fighting you was a disappointment. A disappointment, Vex shouted. You lost 10,000 drones. You damaged your own cities. We lost some toys, Alex said dismissively. And our cities will be fixed by Tuesday. You lost your honor. You lost your fleet. And you lost the illusion that you were the apex predators. Alex stood up straight and adjusted his uniform. Here is the deal, Vex. You are going to leave. You are going to go back to your empire and tell them what happened here. Tell them that Earth is not a peaceful garden. Tell them it is a sleeping dragon, and you just poked it with a stick. And if we come back, Vex whispered. If you come back, Alex said, his voice dropping to a low growl. We won't use the drones. We won't use the gravity wells. We will dig out the really old stuff. The weapons we used to turn stars off. You don't want to see that day. Vex said nothing. He just stared, unable to comprehend the depth of the humanity's power. We will leave, Vex said finally. We will never return. Good, Alex said. Have a safe trip. And Vex, next time, pick on someone your own size. The screen flickered and went dark. On the bridge, the crew cheered. It wasn't a loud, violent cheer. It was a cheer of relief. Sarah clapped her hands. Tom spun around in his chair. Great speech, sir, Tom said. Very dramatic. Did you really mean the part about turning off stars? Alex walked back to his chair and sat down. Who knows, Tom, the manual is in the archives somewhere. Might be fun to read. Sir, Jenny spoke up from the navigation station. The Martian colonies are calling. They want to know if they can cancel their evacuation orders. And the governor of New York is asking for federal aid to fix the crater in Times Square. Tell the governor to check the emergency repairs fund, Alex said, closing his eyes. We have plenty of money saved up. We haven't had to buy a battleship in 3,000 years. The budget is huge. The crew laughed. The adrenaline of the battle was fading, replaced by the familiar comfort of routine. The war was over before it really began. The galaxy had tried to test humanity, and humanity had passed with flying colors, barely breaking a sweat. As the station settled back into silence, Alex thought about the future. For 3,000 years, humanity had been waiting for the end of the truce. They had been waiting for the day they could stop pretending to be normal and show the universe what they really were. But now that it was done, he realized that they weren't going to go back to being a war empire. They were going to go back to being humans. They would repair the cities, clean up the mess, and probably complain about the taxes. "Tom," Alex said softly. "Yes, sir," Tom replied. "Next time someone threatens us," Alex said, a small smile playing on his lips, "let's not wait for them to fire first. It interrupts our coffee breaks." "Understood, sir." The station drifted peacefully in orbit, watching over the blue planet below. The stars were bright and full of life, but today, everyone in the galaxy knew which star shone the brightest. It was the one guarded by the people who just wanted a quiet life but were ready to burn down the sky to keep it. The truce was shattered, but humanity was standing taller than ever. And somewhere, deep in the archives, the really dangerous weapons were waiting, just in case the neighbors ever forgot who they were messing with.